The Secret Letter of Queen Elizabeth I, a monarch's final mystery. When Queen Elizabeth I took her final breath on March 24, 1603, the world lost not just a monarch but a riddle, the Virgin Queen, the woman who had outlasted assassination attempts, invasions, rebellions, and relentless political pressure. Left behind more than an empty throne, she left behind a mystery. In the stillness of her royal bedchamber at Richmond Palace, her most trusted advisors combed through her personal effects, searching for legal documents, instructions for succession, or perhaps a final royal decree. They expected order, ceremony, routine. Instead, they found a single letter. It was not addressed to anyone. It bore no date, no seal, just a piece of parchment folded neatly and tucked beneath her personal effects, where it seemed deliberately placed, as if she had meant for it to be discovered. But only after death. What the letter said, they never revealed. Not to the public, not even to the next monarch. Those who read it went pale, their expressions darkened. Some historians claim one man dropped it as if it burned his hands. Was it a personal confession, a state secret, or something so damning it had to be buried along with the Queen herself? To even guess, we must go back not just to her final days but to her very first breath. Born of scandal, raised in shadows, Elizabeth Tudor entered the world on September 7, 1533, into a kingdom boiling with ambition, betrayal, and religious upheaval. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, was the most controversial woman in Europe. Clever, ambitious, and politically savvy, Anne had enchanted Henry VIII and driven him to the brink of madness. To have her, Henry broke from the Catholic Church, divorced Queen Catherine of Aragon, and declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England. All this, for a male heir. And when Anne gave birth to a daughter, the disappointment was palpable. The child was healthy, red-haired, and alert, but she was not a boy. Elizabeth's early life was overshadowed by her mother's rapid fall from grace. In 1536, Anne was arrested, tried on dubious charges of adultery, incest, and treason, and beheaded within days. Elizabeth was only 2 years old. Her mother's memory was erased from court, her legitimacy questioned, her future uncertain. Henry married Jane Seymour less than 2 weeks later. She gave him what he craved, a son, Edward, but died in childbirth. His power shifted from queen to queen, 6 in total. Elizabeth learned to navigate the most dangerous court in Europe. She was brilliant, calculating, and unusually observant. For a child, her half-sister Mary, a devout Catholic, would one day imprison her in the Tower of London, fearing she might be the focus of Protestant plots. Elizabeth survived it all, not because she was the strongest, but because she was the smartest. The Mask of the Queen. In 1558, Elizabeth ascended the throne. The girl, once declared illegitimate, had become the Queen of England. She ruled alone, refusing to marry, and built a government around loyalty, cleverness, and fear. But behind her mythic image was a woman bound by rituals and masks. In 1562, she was nearly killed by smallpox. She survived, but her face was left scarred, and her once glorious red hair began to fall out. In a time when physical appearance was tied directly to divine right and strength, she couldn't afford to appear weakened, so she created a persona using Venetian cerisa, toxic mixture of white lead and vinegar. She painted her face ghost. It gave her a flawless, doll-like appearance, even as it poisoned her skin. Her lips were tinted with cinnabar, her eyes darkened with coal. Over time, layers of lead damaged her skin so severely that removing the makeup caused bleeding and pain. Wore elaborate wigs to hide her balding scalp, increasingly high collars to conceal the deterioration of her neck and jawline. Her signature Imogen, otherworldly, nearly divine queen, was as much armor as it was illusion. Elizabeth's daily preparation took hours. She was not merely applying cosmetics, she was building a myth, and that myth was killing her. The shadow of Essex and the twilight of a queen. By the early 1600s, Elizabeth's world was shrinking. Most of her old friends and allies had died. The golden age she had created was fading. And then came the betrayal that perhaps broke her heart more than any. Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex, had been her favorite in her later years. Young, handsome, daring, he was 33 years her junior, but their bond ran deep. Letters between them speak of warmth, adoration, even possessiveness. Some courtiers whispered that she loved him. Others suspected Essex of manipulating her for political gain. In 1601, he led a failed rebellion against her. She was forced to sign his death warrant. When the time came, he was beheaded at the Tower of London. Witnesses say Elizabeth wept uncontrollably in private. She kept his ring, and she never truly smiled again. By 1602, she had become frail and reclusive. She refused to eat, to bathe, to sleep. She wouldn't allow herself to lie down, terrified she would never rise again. For days, she stood or sat in silence, draped in black, staring into the middle distance. In her final hours, she reportedly gestured toward a ring and whispered something no one could understand, and then she was gone. Why? She chose the crown over love. Why did Elizabeth never marry? Was it trauma watching her mother lose her crown and head to a man's ambition? Was it strategy, knowing that any husband would come with his own power base, possibly undermining her own? Or was it something deeper, an unspoken vow? She had loved Robert Dudley, her lifelong companion, was the only man she truly trusted, but he was already married, and his wife's suspicious death cast a shadow too dark to ignore. Marriage to him would have ended her reign, perhaps even her life. Instead, she remained the Virgin Queen. She called England her husband. She built her identity around solitude, independence, and control. But in private letters, fragments of another Elizabeth emerged, longing, lonely, and deeply aware of the sacrifices she had made. The final letter, which brings us back to the letter, found among her most intimate belongings, written in her unmistakable hand. No name, no address, no date. What could it have said? Some believe it was a confession about the poisoning effects of her cosmetics, which she may have known were killing her. Others speculate it was a last will of sorts, hinting at a decision she never made publicly. Who should succeed her? Still others whisper that it was far more personal, a final letter to Robert Dudley or the Earl of Essex, or even to the child she may have borne in secret and lost. Or perhaps it was simply a lament, a reckoning, a queen's final confrontation with the life she lived, and the one she never could. Whatever the truth, it remains locked away in silence. Some say it was destroyed, others believe it still exists, hidden deep within the royal archives, classified under pain of scandal. So what was in the letter? A royal secret, a final confession, a cry of regret? We may never know, but one thing is certain. Elizabeth I lived and died behind masks, political, emotional, physical, and in that letter, perhaps she removed the last one. What do you think was in Queen Elizabeth I's final letter? A farewell to a lover, a secret heir, or a truth too dangerous for the world to hear? Share your theory in the comments. If you love forgotten mysteries, unsolved secrets, and the haunted corners of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because history doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it hides.